more love, more joy, everything.
It's inspired young people.
Inspiration comes from within you. When you clear out the garbage that's in your mind, you then create space for something better, more beautiful to come in.
Let's have life and have it more abundantly.
I say yes.
It's like taking a workshop. I get to be in my pajamas.
We have a very active imagination, which is why it's important to learn how to harness it and then point it in the direction you want to go.
I listen to your show every day.
It's time now for Living Your Inspired Life with Susan Burrell. Susan is no-nonsense, inspirational, motivational, and fun.
This is positive talk radio.
Practical wisdom for everyday life.
It's a gift you give yourself.
Now, here's Susan.
And welcome to Living Your Inspired Life. You're listening to News Talk 1590 KVTA. And if you miss anything on our show today, I invite you to go to livingyourinspiredlife.org so you can check out all the amazing work we've been doing and the Indiegogo campaign that we are currently in the throes of. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Indiegogo campaign. It's a crowdfunding, crowdsourcing way to keep living your inspired life alive and on the air. So with that said, I have in the studio with me, I can't even handle it. I have my cohort, Todd Waddington. Todd, thanks for coming in.
Thank you. It's been too long. I mean, I had the intention of sticking around for a while, and it didn't work. But boy, we kicked this thing off for 2 years, I think I was with you.
Oh,
right?
my God. And it was, so listening to the intro song just now, I feel like we're walking down memory lane, together, because before we came on air, we were saying, okay, when did we start? And it was like almost 6 years ago.
That can't be possible.
I know. A blink of an eye, right?
Yep.
A blink of an eye. And when we were working together, okay, so I'm going to talk about Todd.
Let me interrupt you and say,
right.
First of all, because you're going to have listeners that are like, Todd who? This is like, oh, it's old.
You're right.
Home week,
right.
Homecoming or whatever. But you have a whole new crowd out there, I'm sure. But
yeah. So Todd was with me when we first started Living Your Inspired Life years ago, and we did a 5-day-a-week live talk radio show, and Tom Spence, our producer, was with us. So it is kind of old home week. And you and I have been working together for years.
And it was really kind of scary. There were a couple days you did a satellite thing where I was in the studio and you were on the road. And I was kind of sitting here with Tom going, man. But you held your own, and it was great. I mean, I guess I held my own, but I mean, you really kept the show going over the phone, which was pretty miraculous, I thought.
Well, the thing, too, about us working together, because our backgrounds, we come from the performing arts kind of background. So that helped support us in doing what we did all those years ago. And I got to tell you, okay, now I'm going to talk about you.
Uh-oh.
Todd showing up 5 days a week, giving his all, as much as anybody could give. And, some days we would show up at the station and I would say, I don't know what we're talking about today. So we're just going to go for a ride. And you would ride with me. I
would, but that's a testament to who you are. I've taken some of your classes and worked with you outside of the studio. And and it's about the show too. I mean, you just stand toe to toe with these world-class people. And I listen to I listen to Hay House and all these different groups and radios and watch all these gurus on public television. and you stand toe to toe with all of these people. In fact, I maybe I'm a little prejudiced, but I don't think so. I think you go a little further.
Oh, my goodness.
Deeper than, so I know this show is successful and it continues to grow. I know that for you.
Oh, thank you. Wow. You got to come around more often.
Which is why you need to get this Indiegogo thing going.
Yeah. So, part of what I want to talk about today with you is this whole idea of endings and beginnings and how they always kind of loop together, because we've been running this Indiegogo campaign for a few weeks now. And part of what's been happening with the Living Your Inspired Life team, of which Todd's a part of, is this constant pushing of newsletters out to our team for the team to then forward out to their people. And really what the purpose has been, besides raising money for Living Your Inspired Life to expand, really the expansion has been in consciousness. It's been in getting people that would never listen to the show because they don't live locally to check out the website and begin to listen to the shows that are archived on livingyourinspiredlife.org, and this whole consciousness raising thing. And that totally, I guess I hadn't thought about it until we were halfway through the Indiegogo program going, where's the money? You know?
Right.
And you were saying earlier about Indiegogo that it's not brand new, but fairly new.
Fairly new. I mean, I put, okay, so 4 or 5 years ago, I did a one-man show in Hollywood, and I hawked all my friends and just got, worked out a little contract that if the show does this way, you'll get this much back, or this or this. And I really pushed. And I was hoping to get $10,000. I think I got about $5,000. And, but it was, very personal and direct, and I had to hit all these people. With this crowdsourcing idea, it's, you put your idea out there, and if people like it, it can go viral. And that sort of, to me, is sort of it's a very interesting concept of this, consciousness, and that it can just, I don't know, that it starts out with a seed of a thought and then it grows from there. It seems much more evolved than just the old paradigm of like finding a producer and this idea that people can get involved and, I like that, I want to contribute to that. And it could be $10, it could be $10,000.
Right.
It,
Which is what we talk about on Living Your Inspired Life all the time, the idea of cooperation, collaboration, connection, and all of that. And so
thank you. That's where I was
looking
going.
For those C words, those co-words, co-creation. And that's part of what it is exactly what Living Your Inspired Life is about. But the Indiegogo campaign has, how I begin to see it now, is it's created a larger container. I've always talked about these containers that I kind of see in my mind. I don't know where they come from. But those big baskets or bowls of things that you create so you can be more receptive to receiving, and like expand beyond our current life vision and all of that. So
right. Well, you set the goal pretty high for this, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We're learning from all. This entire.
So how do you feel about that in general?
Well, I feel that it is so this is how I operate. Wow, I'm backtracking. But you know this, Todd, so I'm just going to say it straight up. How I operate is if I set an intention, I intuitively feel into that intention and I claim it as absolutely done. Now, the time frame it takes for that intention to be fulfilled is not on my time.
That's right.
It's not on my watch, my calendar. But so when we started this, I absolutely felt that $50,000 was no problemo. Now,
it doesn't sound, in the scheme of things, it doesn't sound like a lot of money to me. That's easy for me to say.
No, and it doesn't to me either. But I think what the learning curve has been, or the experience has been, is that in my life in general, when I've set goals for myself, oftentimes I've realized that I have to chunk it down and take bite-sized pieces and work with them because what I'm understanding currently is that a larger goal requires larger learning. Oh God, learning. So if you chunk it down, you can handle the learning curve easier.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because there's been a huge learning curve here.
Is there a why? Why did you set it so high? Is there an answer to that or no?
Well, when we broke down the cost, it looked like $50,000 would definitely support us for 2 years. So in the places where, besides staying on air locally, expanding into other radio venues in Southern California, but also to begin to create the webinars through the website and e-courses, which I've completed writing a 6-week e-course that's being offered as a perk on the Indiegogo campaign. But also we want to do live events too, and we want to do some, because it's all about connection, right? So being out in the world publicly, where the Living Your Inspired Life team, we can connect with the people that are hungry for this stuff that we talk about. That to me is empowering. And so creating some of the live events that we want to do in collaboration with some of the guests that we've had on the show. So that takes some financial wellness, as I like to call it.
And I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. I'm just going to put it
God,
out
he's
there.
in such trouble.
With 6 years of a radio show and all these wonderful guests, I'm guessing that there's a book somewhere inside you that's going to be delivered at some
Well,
point.
it's interesting.
That's just a prediction.
It's so interesting that you say that because, yeah, there is.
Oh.
Actually, there's
see that?
two that are bubbling. I just have to have the larger container.
Right.
And
5 minutes to sit down and write it.
And 5 minutes, right, right. There's that too. So this Indiegogo campaign is going to be affording me some of that opportunity and time to not just connect, but to connect within and have the book that's bubbling in the back of my brain
Yay.
come out. And it's all about, it's all about just living life from the inside out, like we talk about here all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you're out doing your book tour, people want to take, when you're out doing your live events, people want to take something with them.
with you. Yeah. And they can't take me home. I'm not going home with them. No.
Well, it all depends. No.
Well, it depends. But so can we just pop on a few of the shows that you and I did when we were together? Because we talked to some amazing people.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
We talked to Byron Katie, Terry Cole Whitaker.
Right. Lloyd Tupper. He was a gift to us for a long time. Well, Stephen Trudeau, we as a family saw him for a while as a therapist because he was what an extraordinary guest he was.
Yeah, he's got a good book out about working with kids that have challenges. Mm-hmm. And
there's Larissa Stowe.
Good
friend. Friend of the community.
Singer-songwriter, and she practices NLP and all sorts of coaching activities. And then Margaret Owens was on, one of my favorite friends and
I love
singers.
Margaret. Yeah. I'm sorry I wasn't around for Greg Braden and a couple of people who I really respect.
Greg, at Judith Orloff, Catherine Woodward Thomas. Catherine Woodward Thomas talks about relationship, and she's got a great book out. And this was, this was a few years ago. Daphne Rose Kingma, great books out, amazing author about how to recover from loss, things like that. And Ronaldo Butoko, who is a business guy up in Santa Barbara and is doing out-of-the-box business practices, which we've incorporated those ideas for this iteration of Living Your Inspired Life, this weekly show of conscious evolution, conscious business, which is what Ronaldo represents, and then conscious environment. So we also had, which we continue to this day, local businesses come on the show, like my friend Carol Wade, who's an herbalist, or Diane Sylvester, who has a store called Soul Centered up in Ojai.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. I've been there.
Yep. I was just there this weekend. So, and then also nonprofits like World Family Foundation and Food Share and Youth at Risk and Ojai Valley Youth Foundation, and supporting nonprofits that need to be out there in the world so more people know about them instead of just what's happening in their local little town,
And people can go way back into the archives and dig through and find these shows, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's part of what the Indiegogo campaign is going to do is we're going to be able to podcast all of those shows, all the archive shows. So we have over 350 shows.
Wow.
Yeah. Most of them you and I did together, dude.
That's right. 5 days a week.
5 days a
Woo!
week. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the podcast will be invaluable, and we're developing a subscribership page that's going to happen through the website so that the people that want to subscribe and stay current with what we're doing will be able to. So,
that's great.
Yeah. So
that's
there's
wonderful.
a lot of things that we're going to be doing because of this Indiegogo campaign. And if you're listening, I invite you to go to livingyourinspiredlife.org. There is an Indiegogo icon you can click on, and it clicks through to the Indiegogo Living Your Inspired Life site. and the campaign page, and you can read what else we're doing, why we're doing it. There's some testimonial videos. Todd is on there talking about us, and but also then you can click through and contribute. And we've got some really amazing perks, like the 6-week e-course that I've written called Crossroads, subscribership. There's going to be tickets to live events if you choose to have take a perk with you when you contribute.
Well, I've taken classes on the internet, and usually it's a minimum of $99. You know, when they always leave things at a minimum. You know, for like a 6-week. You know, look, mirror work or something like that. I've done it. Okay, so, true confessions.
You tell on yourself. I love it.
And so for $100 or whatever people want to give, because you shouldn't limit it or if that's too much. But I mean, even if I want to give $20, I can still get that.
You know what? I can't remember. So you got to go to the Indiegogo site. You got to click
so
through.
you get it for a certain rate or whatever.
Yeah, there's different. We develop different levels of giving.
Or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So part of this too. This has been interesting with this journey of this Indiegogo. The learning process. Okay, first of all, when now I'm talking about me, Todd. When I take a class, I'm choosing to take a class, right? I sign up and say, okay, now I'm going to learn pottery, right?
Right.
Well, when Olga and Bev and I decided we were going to do this Indiegogo campaign, none of us thought we were signing up for a class. We didn't think, okay, we're going to learn something. We were just going to do something, But like in life, it's all about learning. So hello, the universe says, yeah, and you didn't learn this yet. Yikes.
So what are the biggest things you've learned so far?
Oh, my goodness. Well, because it's all about me, right? We talk about that on Living Your Inspired Life.
Right.
Wherever you are, it's always about you. So I know Bev and Olga would say completely different things. But for me, because I am the voice of Living Your Inspired Life, if you will, it was about raising money. All my money stuff came up the day we launched the Indiegogo campaign. I
had to take a deep breath.
Yep, I know.
I got stuff around money.
Remember when we were first on the air, we had to get sponsorships, right?
Will you please give us $10
that was so painful.
We'll create a commercial for you.
Todd and I were walking the streets, literally walking the streets, going into stores, asking if they would sponsor Living Your Inspired Life. And we got the most amazing turn downs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people were very nice. Or, let me take your information and I'll give it to my boss.
Right, which was the receptacle on the floor, the waste paper basket.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it brought me up against my ask. How do I ask for and then receive what it is I want? I'm really good about giving. I don't know about you. You're good about giving.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
so. The giving is easier, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes than the receiving?
And the receiving.
So it brought me, I'm talking about me again, but it brought me up against my worthiness again, old worthiness issues. I'm not good enough, whatever those stories were, And then really and then there was a belief system of if people really believed in what we do here on Living Your Inspired Life, the money would just pour in, right?
Right.
So we had to do an Indiegogo campaign for me to learn that I still had issues around all of that stuff.
Well, it's good that it is, going back to an earlier point, it's good that you set the bar high because it shows that you really believe in what you're doing. And although 50,000 might not have sounded like a lot, it seems that, I don't know. I just think it's great that you had the wherewithal to say, this is what we need and this is the intention we're setting.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because the team and I, we had the conversation. We started planning this Indiegogo campaign about 2 months before we launched. And we launched on May 1st. So during the plotting and the, deciding, we were feeling into, okay, first we started with 10. Let's ask for 10. No, that didn't feel right because there was a whole bunch of other overhead we had to cover and things we wanted to do. And so then, we kept pushing it. And okay, let's ask for 30,000, and then I finally said, you know what? Let's ask for the whole Megillah. And, you know, I did have to sit down in with myself, me, myself, and my higher self, and really kind of reflect, is that really the right number to ask for right now? And I felt it. I felt that it was all fulfilled. So I said, that's it. We're going to go for the highest number, and what shakes down, what comes out is what comes out, you know, it will be what it is, you know, it will be what it will be. So
Good. And it is all about you. No, I mean, you know, I'm making a joke, but I'm thinking about this, you know, this idea that everything's universal. And so some people may be listening today and saying, why are they talking about Indiegogo? I want to hear them talk about, you know, what they're used to hearing on the show. But this unfoldment is exactly what you talk about on the show. And your situation that you're sharing about, there are also people out there saying, oh, yes, I remember when I started this project, blah, 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 and I thought it would never happen. And then 5 years later, I saw exactly why it went the way it went, you know. So I'm singing in our spiritual center next, the spiritual center that I go to, I'm singing I Am What I Am.
Oh,
you know,
I
that
love
song
that.
from La Cage aux Folles.
Yeah.
But it's universal. It's not, I'm speaking about the greater I am. So anyway, no more apologies about saying I'm talking about myself again.
Well, that's but see that, you know, I'm glad that you're tapping on that, because what we do talk about on Living Your Inspired Life, it is a universal theme, because what happens to one of us happens to all of us, because we're so connected.
That's right.
In that web. Last week I had Dr. Kathy Hearn on, and she was talking about Indra's net. And we've talked about Indra's net several times on the show, where there is this whole net that connects us universally on the planet, and not just people, but plant life, animal life, all of it. And because we're all so connected fundamentally. So, you know, in my mind, as we were going through this Indiegogo process, because it was a process, if I could learn what it is I need to learn, and I encourage the other team members to learn what it is they needed to learn, and if we could readjust or refocus, you know, we talk often about shifting our perspective by 1 degree, just shifting it 1 degree to change what it is, because it not only brought up issues within me, Susan, personally, but I got emails from team members saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm asking my friends, I can't do this, blah, 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 you know, whatever it was that came up for them. So it was interesting, because we were, I don't know, a few weeks into this campaign, and one of my biggest collaborators and supporters over the last few years emailed me and said, I have to be honest, I haven't been sending out these emails because I'm so uncomfortable. It's bringing up all my stuff, and I thought I could work it out on my own and not tell anybody. And yeah, I was like, really?
I'm sorry.
You know, let me just hide in a closet and pretend like my issues don't exist. Really? You know, because what we know is,
I don't know. I mean, we're funny people. I'm just laughing at the idea of like taking up your time by exposing my whole process of why I can't send out your letter. I apologize if that person's listening now, because I get it. I totally get it.
Oh yeah,
But
I do too.
I see life as often as a comedy, so that struck me as funny.
Well, and here's the thing is that, you know, you and I know, Todd, that because we've both been teachers, right? If somebody's uncomfortable with something, chances are there's more than one person uncomfortable.
Right.
If somebody has a question, chances are more than one person has that exact same question that they're looking for an answer to.
Right.
And so had this person brought this up sooner, all of it could have been addressed, you know, but it was brought up in the right, perfect time. And this person was speaking to what other people were feeling, you know, what I was feeling, you know.
Yeah,
it was exactly what I was feeling. So it's life is just, it is funny. It's just funny. And something else that was occurring as well was this whole thing of not taking it personally.
That's a big one. That's a really big one.
And I was like looking at myself in the mirror going, really? Yeah, because I have a new guy in my life, and he's like, look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself. I'm like, I know how to do this.
There's that mirror work again.
I know, and I tell people to do this, and but so I'm looking in the mirror going, really? What? Why am I taking this so personally? And the truth is because for whatever reason, I'm not trusting the universe to provide. I'm not loving myself, from the inside out, It's just amazing how when you commit to doing something, all the stuff shows up for you either to deal with, release, put in a box and say, I'll deal with it later, let it go, whatever it is.
I remember someone I was talking to years ago when I was interested in doing more acting and this kind of stuff and looking for a project. A very wise actor friend of mine said, Todd, it's never about the project, but what happens within the project.
Say that again.
It's never about the project, but what happens within the project. In other words, it's not even about this conversation. It's about what's happening within this conversation. It's about you and me connecting in some way.
Did you tell me that 6 weeks ago when we launched? Were you there saying that to me? I can't remember. We had lunch, and I think you said some pretty profound things.
I don't remember.
But if you had said
that
to me.
I might have said that.
Well, I'm glad you're saying it to me now.
Okay.
As we're coming to the ending and new beginnings. So I have Todd Waddington in the station with me. We're talking about Living Your Inspired Life, the Indiegogo campaign, and all of that. And we're going to come back and talk about how an ending is really a signal that there's something new happening. And Todd, I know, can speak to this. So we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Susan Burrell from Living Your Inspired Life. I always find it easier and more fun to expand my life by being connected to open-hearted, like-minded people committed to being on the same path I am. If you feel the same way, I suggest you visit a Center for Spiritual Living. There are wonderful communities in Ventura, Ojai, Santa Barbara, Oxnard, Pleasant Valley, Camarillo, and Westlake Village. You'll find terrific people, great information, and more tools to help you live the life you were born to live. So go to csl.org to find a center near you. That's csl.org for a center near you. Welcome back to Living Your Inspired Life. I'm Susan Burrell, and if you have not been listening up until now, go to livingyourinspiredlife.org later, and you can listen to the rest of this show or listen to all the plethora of shows that we have archived there, and as well as clicking on the Indiegogo icon and contributing to Living Your Inspired Life so that we can keep Positive Talk Radio alive, not only in Ventura County, but expanding it out through all of it, through everything. So I have Todd Waddington, my cohort of days of yore, in today because really I wanted us to have a celebration of all that's occurred up until now on Living Your Inspired Life, and you were part of the inception and creation of that when we started. So many years ago.
We were. And, I don't know how much you talk about it today, but I know that we talked a lot about this idea. I heard you say the phrase Positive Talk Radio. And, so many people complain about what's out there or what's on the news. And we know what's on the news. And news people get money for what's on the news, and so they put those stories on because it's what we're used to, and we want to see who just got shot. We want to see the celebrity that just did such and such, and but you're offering something very different, and we could go there, but if something tragic happens, you approach it from a place of what can we do, how can we help. And it's not all about the sensationalism and the violence and the this and the that. It's very much solution oriented, and you give so much in this show that it's really beautiful.
Yeah, we like to focus on how do we. Oh God, we were talking about this the first half. How do we learn from this experience, and how do we move forward from this experience, and not deny it or shove it under the carpet or turn a deaf ear either. But how do we address it, look it in the face and go, okay, now what am I going to make out of this?
Right.
So, and it's interesting too, because Living Your Inspired Life, we've been talking a lot, the team and I, about, and we started with this at the very beginning of the entire show, we talked about circles. Everything's on a circle, right? As opposed to a pyramid or a hierarchical thing. And what I've been seeing over the last few years, and you're a part of that, Todd, is that people have come to sit on the circle with me, if you will, like around a campfire kind of circle, and we sing Kumbaya. Well, you and I sing other songs, but La Cage aux Faux songs. But then what happens is different people get what they need once they've been part of that circle, and then they go off to do their own thing. And like Joyce Sherwood has been one of those people. She was integral for the last 3 years of working with Living Your Inspired Life, and now she's creating her own circle, which is still connected to Living Your Inspired Life, and she's doing Living Your Inspired Life movement and brain gym processes and integrating those. So everybody that participates with Living Your Inspired Life gets to sit on the circle, and then really the expansion, or my vision, has always been then each and every individual gets to move 1 degree away and create that ripple of consciousness or sharing whatever their gifts are that they've developed by participating with Living Your Inspired Life, and sharing that with the world as well. And that's something that I think you're doing because you're in the process of moving.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, the secret is I'm really excited about it. Mm-hmm. But I'm very sad. I've been in Southern California for 10 years, and the idea now of uprooting and going to Massachusetts, where they have 9-foot snows in one day,
that's going to be rude.
Is kind of that's a little disconcerting. But there's so much in the city of Boston, which is where we're going to be near. It offers so much, and outside of the radio show and a couple other things never quite clicked for me out here. And I'm really excited to go back east.
Well, so that's interesting. That kind of speaks to what we were talking about the first half of the show with the Indiegogo campaign of chunking things down, right? Mm-hmm. So perhaps like for you, it wasn't about staying here for the rest of your life, happily ever after, ta-da. But this is just part of that chunk of, okay, now here's where I experienced this, and now I move to the next place.
Right.
And I think so many people see endings, certainly like a death or a divorce, as that means that's completely done, and now I separate that part of my life, as opposed to going, this is another piece of my life that informs me even more of who I am and then who I want to become.
Yes.
Because here's what I'm seeing in my life, at least, is in every ending, there's a new beginning. There is always a new beginning. So even in a seeming death, there is a new beginning.
Right. And often we're in that place where we're right in between, and so we don't know what the end looks like, and we don't know what the beginning looks like. And that's an awkward place to be. But
it's very uncomfortable.
I was also thinking, as you were saying all that we talk a lot about, it's all about me, which is true. I mean, we can only take care of ourselves. But on the other hand, this paradoxically, none of it's about me. Perhaps none of it is about me. And what I mean by that is, coming out here, I said something like, a few minutes ago that I'm not sure what this was all about for me. And maybe it wasn't for me. Maybe it was for my daughter, who got a lot of attention and care out here. And now she's prepared as a 12-year-old to go, well, she's as prepared as a 12-year-old can be to go back east. But I think she got some tools in her tool belt that maybe she wouldn't have gotten. And so perhaps it wasn't so much about me coming out here. It had to be something else.
Right.
So I don't know how those two thoughts coexist, but
that speaks to the concentric circles again. Like if you're the orb that she circles around, right?
Right.
But she's the one that got what was needed here, and then she can then go and do, and it's going to inform her life from this point forward. It creates that circle that she's eventually going to be the centerpiece of.
Right. Right.
As opposed to you and your partner being the centerpiece of her life. So I just see things as rings that connect all the time. Why, I don't know. But yeah.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for Living Your Inspired Life, too, there's this whole Indiegogo process has not it's formed itself the way it would naturally form itself. Here's something else I learned. Oh, God. Here's something else I learned about this process is as soon as I was able to let go of what I thought it was going to look like, then everything changed. Everything changed for the better. Not necessarily for my better, not in terms of what my picture was, but definitely for the better for everybody that was participating.
Right. As soon as you let go, basically. I had a similar situation that for 10 years I was whining about why Southern California privately. I didn't really make a big deal out of it, but in my personal life, I'd say, I just don't, it's not happening for me out here. It's not happening. I don't know how to make it work. And I finally said to myself, Todd, just a few months ago, this is where you live. This is where you live. Why don't you just accept it and start to grow here and make your community here, say yes to all of it. And then my partner came home from work one day and said, if I want to keep my job, we're going to Cambridge, Massachusetts. So I said, just when I said yes to this. So I don't know how that all works.
I don't know, but I notice that happens quite frequently. As soon as you surrender.
Looking for the girlfriend or boyfriend,
right.
Looking for the money.
Right. And the minute you stop, right, it shows up. And it shows up even better than what you were anticipating.
Right.
Even though it looks like a move across country.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm just always fascinated how the universe wants to ebb and flow and move and express itself by means of us. It's just incredibly fascinating. Mm-hmm. And again, this ride on this Indiegogo campaign with the team members brought up all sorts of different stuff individually that then as a team we had to work through, and people's stuff was popping like popcorn. And by stuff, I mean kind of not nice stuff, and it was popping like popcorn, and all of a sudden when everything's, the
that
Jiffy
never
Pop
happens in conscious circles, does it?
Oh, yes, it does.
People are still human? Wow.
That whole Jiffy Pop thing, you hear one pop, another pop, and then all of a sudden everybody's popping at the same time. It was like, whoa, let's take this off the burner, man. I don't want that kind of popcorn.
I've been to seminars with all these quote unquote enlightened people, and then they take a break and it's like, where are we going to go for dinner? And everyone's asserting themselves. They want to go to Chinese food. Somebody else wants Italian. And I'm nearly getting into a fist fight over it. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So
we're
always human. I'm sorry, I
but
pulled us off track.
Wherever you are, there you are, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to do that mirror work. It's important to look at yourself and go, wow, this is, I'm the one that's popping here. What's mine? To discern I know that's what I had to do a lot of. Okay, what really in this arena where everything's getting hot and uncomfortable, what really is mine? That I am responsible for, that I need to heal, I need to let go of, I need to take care of, I need to take responsibility, address all that stuff. So there's been lots of joy, lots of anger, lots of tears, lots of celebration and high fives during this process, and it's been fascinating. And like I said earlier, I didn't realize I signed up for a course. I didn't realize I was going to be learning stuff.
Right. Well, and the good news is it's not over. People can still go to the website, click on it, and donate, and get all the good stuff that goes along with it. Taking your e-course,
Yeah, we've got some coaching sessions there as perks, and then other things like journals. We're going to create we're going to do live events so people can have tickets to go to some live events. So maybe you'll come out from Boston to a live event when we do a biggie.
Good.
Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be really fun.
Yeah. So the other thing too, for me, in this whole process, was that I had to get even more conscious. And I think that's where we are in life. And we've been talking. Some of the guests that I've been having on the show, we've been talking about the new paradigm. How the new paradigm. There is no more old paradigm. I mean. There is an old paradigm, but it's in a box now. And hopefully everybody's putting their old paradigm in a box, because the idea of carrying what we used to do forward into our lives doesn't work anymore. Todd's rolling his
Amen.
eyes. He's rolling his eyes.
This has been a major year of change for me, and it's stuff I can't really talk about on the radio.
But see,
interpersonal
Right.
relationship stuff, good,
and if you're moving,
all good
and if
stuff.
you're moving, do you want to take that garbage with you?
No.
So thank God you can
not.
leave it here on the San
Yeah.
Andreas Fault. That's right, and just let it go. That's been fascinating with the people that I get to talk to, because a lot of us are going through that. There's how I used to operate doesn't work for me anymore. Literally doesn't work and if I keep trying to operate out of that, it only makes more pain in my life, more illness, more upset, more anger. But if I operate out of what my new paradigm is, that I'm just now seeding, I mean, I don't even know what it is, how I want to be in life, except I do know happiness, fun, financial health, all of those, my health, all of those are part of it. But what does that look like? I don't know yet, because I'm just seeding, planting those seeds for that to happen.
One of the big things I came to, and maybe part of it is maturity as we get older, I don't know, but this year I've really been about, can we just have a conversation?
Ooh.
Do we have to go to that place of tension and fear and
Ignition.
anger? And,
Ignited
that's
fury.
an old habit. We don't have to repeat that. And let's talk about it. Let's just tell the truth. Tell the truth. And sometimes the truth might hurt a little, but it doesn't hurt like that. I don't even know what's going on, because we're, everything's couched in sarcasm and anger and this and that. And I just don't want to do that anymore.
See, I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
I really think that's healthy. And something that I've realized, certainly during this process, is for me, my truth isn't always everybody's truth.
Yep.
Right?
I understand that.
And
your truth evolves, right? What's
Right.
true for you today
can be different.
maybe, I don't want to say it's completely different, but 5 years from now may look a little different.
Yeah, because we are constantly evolving beings.
Right.
And this and the idea of that my truth isn't necessarily your truth is important, because that was one of the contentious bones within the team, was that there was a truth that one person thought was true for everybody, and yet it wasn't true for everybody. And so the conversation had to happen of, okay, so if this is not the one way we're going to do this, what other ways are there? And we had to explore all the different ways to do it, and then come to an agreement, not necessarily consensus. I haven't quite gotten to that paradigm of everybody has to agree. I don't know how that happens, really, but at least to go, okay, what am I can agree to I can agree 90% of this. Can I let the 10% go? For the highest good of the project, the highest good of whatever it is I'm working on, can I let just 10% of it go? Because maybe I'm moving into consensus, whatever.
Well, I do know that, if we could do that with world leaders, it would be amazing, right? Because this truth is true for, Israel, this truth is true for Palestine, and when can we hold those two truths and find a greater truth in the middle?
Right,
somewhere,
a synergy. That's called synergy.
Yeah.
When there's two opposing ideas and it creates a third.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the third is often for the highest good. And it's something that the two opposing ideologies could not conceive of until there was the conversation, until there was the interaction, until there was the exploration, and then the evolution into the synergistic third option. There's always a third option.
Yes.
And even when there's, 3 people involved, there's always another option that can encompass a majority of all of it. And that was the thing that I learned is my perspective is my perspective, my truth is my truth, and I can speak from my truth, and hopefully it resonates with 90%. Hopefully it resonates with enough people that it inspires them to what is their truth.
Yeah. Well, one of my jobs when I first started, at least I saw it as my job, was to come in with some mundane analogy, and then somehow you would find a greater truth in it. But anyway, before the radio show, I was telling you about this
hopefully it
thing that
resonates
happened with
with
my daughter. You know, if for parents out
90%.
there, if you,
know, hopefully it
there are things you have to
resonates
do
with
all year
people
long
that
with school, and
it
you have to send
Mhm.
checks, and you have to fill out stuff, and somehow I missed the yearbook thing.
Which is a big one, Dad.
We got to the end of the year, and we're moving. So the one thing my daughter really would like to have is a yearbook signed by all of her friends and all that stuff. Well, anyway, she's not getting a yearbook, but we've tried every angle, and it's not happening. And so I came in kind of with that drama in the back of my mind because I just found out a few hours ago. And you said something about, you know, focusing on the problem. We always focus on the problem. It wasn't like you were wagging your finger at me, but we were discussing this idea. And I was thinking as you're talking about the Indiegogo and the process with the support staff, that that's the other thing, you know, that if we're focusing on the problem, there will be no solution.
Well, yes, and during the process of this campaign, the focus of, okay, so this is about money, right? The problem equals money, need money, focusing on money, where's the money, show me the money, and that became, for me, that became my focus. When we launched, it was like, okay, now we're going to get the $50,000 funding money. Yes. Money. And during the process, when it wasn't flowing in, like my expectation, thought it would, I began to shut down. I began to panic. I began to feel, you know, like a mushroom. Oh, I'm not very good. Eeyore kind of stuff. And I realized I had to. So my mindfulness and meditation practice has almost tripled during this process, which is good for me. It helped my physical body is getting healthier because I'm doing it on a regular basis again, and on a longer basis, you know, like an hour and a half. But it was also the only. I realized one day I can't ask anybody else what the answer is. This is part of my new paradigm, Todd. It's no longer about me discussing it with other people outside of me. Well, what do you think? 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 It's about, wow, I got to sit down with me and I got to ask within me, what is the solution? Because all our answers reside within us all the time anyway, right? So I had to like sit down and practice. I had to walk my talk sitting, you know?
Right.
And out of it came just a really awesome new perspective. Well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? And I'm using the Indiegogo campaign as an example, people. This is, you know, it's not about the Indiegogo campaign for living your inspired life. Really, honestly, it's not. But what happened is my new perspective was, it was never about the money. It was never about the crowdfunding, although we could certainly use $50,000. Who couldn't? But it was also about what we said earlier about the awareness, the expanded awareness about living your inspired life, what we're here to do, how we show up in the world, that it's positive programming, that there are tools, mindfulness tools, environmental tools, consciousness tools you can gather just by listening to one of our shows that will inform you and help you to build a better life and also help co-create a world that works for everybody. So the Indiegogo campaign and all the newsletters we've been forwarding and sending out people, all of that, if you've been touched by one of those newsletters, all of that, it wasn't so much about the asking for money as it really was the intention underneath it was to help living your inspired life become, to go viral, basically, to reach as many people, more people than we can in the Ventura County area currently. So
it worked. I mean, it is working.
It's working, yeah. Yeah. So consequently, what we're doing now is asking for money. As it really Indiegogo is the campaign is going to be ending on the 16th of June in terms of the active part of the campaign, the place where we've been sending out newsletters and posting on Facebook, which I guess I still am going to be doing. But you know, all that kind of so reaching out and networking thing. That active part is going to be complete. And what we're doing, Indiegogo has said that we can extend the receivership part of the campaign to the end of June. So we've got 2 more weeks to just stand what I'm calling standing receptive. So I began to see this last week as we were heading toward what we thought was the finish line, right? That we're really kind of not finished. Because there's this big bowl, if you will,
said that we can extend
that has just become larger and larger and larger because of the expanded reach we've created by sending out all these emails.
We've got 2 more weeks to just stand.
Are you following me?
What I'm saying,
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
Yes.
So now, instead of having this small little cup and we're going to the
see
well
this
saying,
last
please,
week
sir, can you fill
as
it
we were
with my
heading toward
cup?
what we thought was the
Please, sir,
finish
can I have
line,
some
right?
more?
That
What's
we're really kinda
happened
not
in this whole
finished.
push
Because
is we've
there's this
created this
big,
really large container that I can't
bowl,
even
if
wrap
you
my arms
will,
around. Nobody can.
that has
that
just become larger
is
and
now
larger
large
and
enough
larger
to
because
catch
of
all the
expanded
inflow
reach we've created by sending
of
out
whatever
all
it
these
is,
emails.
consciousness,
Following
cash,
me?
ideas,
Does this make sense?
Yes.
creativity,
So now, instead of having this small little
love,
cup and
admiration,
we're going
whatever
to
it
the well
is.
saying,
So now
"Please,
it's
sir, can you
so
fill it with my
big
cup?"
Right.
beyond
Please, sir, can I have some
anybody's
more?
knowing right
What's
now because we've just been
happened in
pushing
this
so
whole
much
push is we've
that
created this really
I'm
large
encouraging
container
the
that I
Living Your
can't even
Inspired
wrap
Life
my
team
arms
now to
around.
just
Nobody
stand
can.
receptive. All of us
That
standing receptive,
is now large enough
heart to
catch
heart, hand to
all the
hand,
inflow
open-armed,
of whatever it is,
open-minded to
consciousness,
receive
cash,
whatever
ideas,
is flowing in, because I do
creativity,
know that there's an
love,
inflow.
admiration, whatever
Just like when
it
you're
is.
breathing,
So now
right? You
it's
have to
so
exhale it
big
out. You're pushing it
beyond
out
anybody's
in
knowing
order to
right
breathe
now
in
because
more.
We've just been pushing so much.
So that's kind of where
that
we're at.
I'm
You know, we
encouraging
did
the
have
Living
this
Your Inspired
conversation
Life
this
team now
week
to
of
just
why
stand
would we
receptive.
why
All
would
of
we
us
want
standing
Indiegogo to
receptive,
extend it? We told
heart to
everybody
heart,
it's done.
hand to hand,
Blah blah blah. It should be done. And believe me,
open-armed,
myself and the
open-minded
team
to
members
receive
that have been creating these
whatever
newsletters,
is
we're all really
flowing
kind
in,
of
because
done.
I do know
and the
that
people
there's
that
an
have been
inflow.
sending them, everybody's
Just like
kind
when
of
you're breathing, right?
done
You
with
have
that
to
part. And what
exhale
we
it out and
realized is
pushing it
that
out
activity
in order to breathe
is
in more.
complete. And there is
So
a
that's kind
new
of where we're at
activity.
we
When
did have
you
this
think about the law of
conversation this week
circulation, like we
why
talked
would
about
we-
on
why
Living Your
would we
Inspired
want
Life,
Indiegogo
there's
to
a giving
extend it?
out.
We
That was
told
the
everybody it's
newsletters.
done.
Now there's a
Blah,
giving
blah,
in.
blah. It should be done, and believe me,
There will be a receivership,
myself
and then
and
out
the
of
team
that there will be
members
another
that have
giving
been
out,
creating these
which will
newsletters. We're
look
all really
like
kinda
Living Your
done.
Inspired Life
And the
doing
people that have
webinars
been
and the
sending them, everybody's
e-course,
kinda done
Crossroads
with that part. And
e-course,
what we
the
realized
live
is that
events, the
activity
whatever else, the
is
podcasts
complete.
for sure
And
people
there is a
the
new
podcasts are happening.
activity
So that'll be
when
another
you think
giving
about the law of
out
circulation, like we
as
talked
we've
about on
received,
Living
and
Your
we
Inspired
have
Life.
it.
There's
We
a
have
giving
received
out. That was the
seed money, what
newsletters.
we're calling
Now there's a giving
currently
in.
up to date. Seed
There will
money
be a
of
receivership,
over
and then out of that there will be
$7,000,
another giving
That's great.
out,
which is
will
awesome,
look
right?
like
And
Yeah.
that
Living
and
Your
that
Inspired Life
can
doing
we can now
webinars and
seed
e-course,
the podcasts and a
Crossroads
few other
e-course,
things that
the
we needed
live
financial,
events, the whatever else
health
the
for
podcasts
in
for-
order to
for sure people
progress
were- the
as we
podcasts are
stand
happening.
receptive.
So that'll
and
be another
receivership
giving
for the
out
rest of the inflow,
as we've received, and we have
financial
it-
inflow,
we have
or whatever
received
else is
seed
going to
money,
flow
what we're
in
calling
of,
currently
of,
up to date
of stuff,
seed
you know,
money of
for living
over
your inspired life.
$7,000.
So
That's great.
Which is awesome.
all
right?
in all,
And
it's been
that- and
just a
that
fascinating
we can now
ride.
seed
I don't
the
know what you know,
podcasts
Todd.
and a
You would
few
think at
other
our
things
age,
that we needed
okay,
financial,
I would think at my age
103.
I
in
know
order to progress
that
as
I
we
would get that
stand
everything is a ride.
receptive
You
and
know,
It is a
receivership for
ride.
the rest
But
of the
you know what a great
inflow,
thing that I don't
financial
know
inflow
how much
or
time we have
whatever
left,
else
but
is gonna
I
flow
love
in.
that
We have a
you,
couple minutes
that you
of
dedicated
stuff,
this
you know,
show
for
to
living
just
your
talking about the
inspired life.
business, because people that
all
are
in
not
all,
in
it's been
show
just a
business, and let's
fascinating
face it,
ride.
even if it's
I don't know what
this
you know,
show is
Todd,
still
you would think at our age,
has a feeling of
okay,
show business
I
about
would
it.
think
right?
at my
Right,
age,
it's your radio. It's radio.
That-
It's if you're
that I
on
would
stage,
get that
it would be
everything
that.
is a ride,
and
you
people don't
know?
have It is a the ride. background But of what you know, it what a takes great to thing put that- something I don't on know a show,
how
a
much
movie,
time we
a
have left,
TV
but
show. We
I
just
love
turn on
that.
our
We have a
TV
couple
and there's
minutes.
Law and That you Order, and dedicated we watch this it, and show to you know just nobody talking knows about about the the business, hundreds of because producers and people what it that took, are not and in getting the show commercials business, and and let's getting face the, it, you know, even if it's so it really takes a this lot of show work. And still what I think is really has a valuable feeling is of that show people are business hearing about that it. you're
Dun,
doing
dun,
it.
dun, dun,
Right,
dun.
it's your
Dun,
radio.
dun, dun.
It's radio.
Right.
It's really if taking you're on in stage. it, It would be that the time and people effort don't have the to do it the right
what
way.
it takes to
it's
put
not
something
about
on
just
a
pushing
show,
and
a
getting
movie,
it,
a
getting a
TV
check
show.
to
We
make
just
this
turn
thing
on our
happen.
TV
Yeah.
and there's Law and Order.
Well,
and
and we're
we
not
watch
here.
It and,
We're
nobody
quality
knows about
programming.
the
hundreds
Exactly.
of producers and
at
what
least
it took.
that's
and
the
getting
intention that
commercials
our
and
team
getting
has
the,
always
you know,
had
so
from
it
the
really
inception.
takes a lot of work, and what I
when
think
you
is
and I
really
were
valuable
working it.
is that people are hearing that you're
And
doing
the
it
quality
and you're doing it consciously.
continues to
really taking in it
the time and effort
fine tune
to,
itself and
to do it the
continues
right
to
way.
expand
It's
itself.
Not
And,
about just
I mean,
pushing and
the
getting a
amazing
check to
authors
make
that
this
we've had
thing
on just
happen.
in this
Yeah.
last year. And,
Well, and we're not here.
We're going to have some other amazing conversations.
Exactly.
Naomi
And
Tutu,
at least
Desmond
that's-
Tutu's
that's
daughter is
the
coming
intention
on.
Wow.
our
At
team
some
has
point,
always had
Dennis Merritt
from the
Jones is coming
inception,
on.
you know,
I mean, we've got
when
some.
you and I were
We've got some
working it.
pretty
And-
amazing
and
people
the
that
quality that I get to have a
continues
conversation
to,
with.
Yeah.
Which is just fun for me. You
fine
know,
tune
I just
itself
keep
and
going,
continues
wow,
to
I love what I
expand
do. I
itself.
love,
And,
I love it all.
The
So,
amazing authors that we've had on
Todd
just
Waddington,
in this last year, and
talking about love.
we're
I
going
love,
to have some
love,
other
love and
amazing
adore you.
conversations. Naomi Tutu,
all the
Desmond
time,
Tutu's daughter is
wherever
coming
you go.
on.
Wow.
So
At
as
some
you,
point, Dennis
now
Merritt
that
Jones
I'm
is
just- if I
coming
can get through
on.
this
I mean,
without
we've
tearing
got
up.
some.
But
we've
as
got
you
some
step
pretty
further away
amazing
from the
people
linear
that-
inspired life circle,
that
there
I get to have a
you know that there's
conversation
always a place
Yeah.
here, which is just fun for me
On the circle,
You know,
wherever
I
you
just
are.
keep going, wow, I
Yes.
love
and there
what I
are
do. I love-
telephones and
I
there
love it
are
all. So
ways to stay in
There's
touch.
this
Todd
thing called
Waddington,
FaceTime.
I
Imagine
talking about
Yeah.
love. I
or
love,
Skyping.
love,
Who
love
knows?
and adore
We could
you.
do some webinars, something
all the
together.
time,
You can be in
wherever
Boston,
you
and I'll be
go.
in
So as you-
wherever I am.
Now that-
Just
if I
like
can get
last
through this
time.
without
It could
tearing
totally
up.
happen.
But as you step
So I thank you
further
for joining
away
me
from
and
the
making
Living Your
this
Inspired
fun.
Life
Thank
circle,
you.
And
you
again,
know
I
that there's
invite
always
everybody
a
to
place
go
here.
to livingyourinspiredlife.org.
On the circle, wherever you are.
Click on the Indiegogo
And there
campaign.
are
It will be
telephones and there
live
are
through the end of
ways
June.
to
So
stay
you
in
got
touch.
there's this
and-
thing plenty
called
of time.
FaceTime.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you're just thinking
Or
about
Skyping.
it,
That's
who
the
knows?
time to do
We could
it.
do some
Now is
webinars
the
something
time.
together.
You're really
You can
doing
be
it
in
for
Boston,
yourself.
and I'll be in
Exactly.
You know,
wherever I
it's
am.
not about making this thing
Just like
last,
last
but
time.
it's really could doing totally something happen. really
Yep.
good.
So I thank
Thank
you for
you.
joining me
Yeah.
and
Thank
making
you,
this
my dear
fun.
friend.
Thank you.
And
So I'm
again,
just
I
gonna
invite
finish
everybody
with,
to go to
and so it is,
livingyourinspiredlife.org. Click on the